electrical power. All these things can be made by, solar-based fuels, and, all of them are cheaper than fossil fuels or nuclear.
What's your takeaway watchword now for the next couple of weeks, Arnie? Do you think we should be concerned? Is San Onofre done, or are we going to see something else happening there?
Well, I am concerned that the Nuclear Regulatory Commission is going to allow San Onofre to start back up. They have never shut a nuclear plant down permanently, but the real solution to San Onofre would be to keep it shut down for a couple of years and go in and replace those new steam generators with new steam generators. But of course, the problem is that San Onofre committed that they weren't going to spend more than $700 million replacing them. So who's going to give them the next $700 million? Wall Street doesn't want to touch the deal. And this gets back to the subsidy thing. We're dealing with a technology that, were it not for federal subsidies, wouldn't be subsidized by a capitalist economy. So what we've done is we've socialized the risk. When these things break, we all pay for it, and we've capitalized the gain. When they run, it's the corporations that make the money. It's a lose-lose for the people in Southern California, I'm afraid.
Boy, I asked Dan Hirsch when he was on who the good guys were in power and who could the public be communicating with and saying thank you to, and Dan just threw his hands up and said there's nobody. That NRC really touches everyone in power and puts the money in political pockets and lobbyists, and I don't know, but it's really nice to have the concurrence between two very knowledgeable people saying that we do have ways around this. We can boil water in a better way, I think.
Let me just say one thing. Your Senator Barbara Boxer has been not an advocate of shutting the plant down, but an advocate of a thorough scientific process and holding the NRC's foot to the fire. So if there's one person out there in California on San Onofre, it would be Senator Boxer's staff that's been instrumental in just making sure that the NRC does their job.
We have a quick call. We have a caller online. I'm going to see if we can get them on in just, we're running out of time, but caller, can you hear me? We're just getting the caller online, guys. And
well, while the caller's coming online, the biggest subsidy for nuclear power, of course, is the Price-Anderson Act, passed many, many years ago, which limits the amount of money.
Can you hear me?
That. Let's go to the caller.
You have just a moment, please. Caller?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, you have a moment with us.
Oh, okay. Wondering about fish and salmon and contamination from radioactivity from Fukushima. What is the feeling? I know that there were tuna caught down around San Diego found to be tainted, and I'm wondering what's going on. Should people stay away from fish caught in the ocean? I'll listen on the internet. Thank you.
We have just a moment. Arnie, do you have a take on that?
Yeah, there were scientists caught 15 tuna, and every tuna was quite highly contaminated with cesium-134, 137. Wow. So that means every tuna they caught was contaminated, and that speaks. Those tuna were only 5 months after the accident, and they spawned near Japan. So they spawned in Japan, swam across the Pacific, wound up here, we caught them, and then it was about 8 months before they published their data, unfortunately. Right. So we've got contaminated tuna, and I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. As citizens, we got to demand that the government test this stuff. But right now they're on don't ask, don't tell. We don't ask the Japanese what's in the tuna, and they don't tell us.
Dave, did you?
Well, of course, the size of the radioactive pollution from Fukushima dwarfs the pollution from the BP oil spill a year ago. So what we're talking about is it'll take time before the radioactive particles in water will move with the currents to our fishing grounds where salmon and stuff will be affected. But when it does come, the whole thing about radioactive particles is they're water soluble. And so they love living things. And they, if you have smaller creatures eat the radioactive particles, bigger things eat them, bigger things eat them. Now the salmon eats the bigger thing, and all of a sudden you've concentrated by 10 times, because every level eats a lot of food. By the time it gets to you, the radiation content is huge, and tuna are enormous. So they're big bioaccumulators of metals and radiation. You got to realize, though, it's not just the nuclear power plants, it's coal. The whole Pacific Ocean is blanketed every day with mercury and radiation from the massive burning of coal in China. So, radiation is in every bit of coal, particles. And so we have multiple sources of bad fuels that we have to end. But the scary part of Fukushima is if that fuel pool burns in days, we will be experiencing exposure via the wind. And it's the immediacy and the severity of what we're talking about with nuclear power that is unmatched in terms of foul sources of power.
Well, I'm happy to be a vegan sometimes, and this is one of those moments. I think there's maybe a benefit here for us, but what a crazy, crazy mess. And Arnie, I can't thank you enough. We're down to the wire here. I want people to visit you on Fairwinds and Associates. Arnie and Maggie are doing fantastic work there, the scientists you're in league with. Dave Bloom, always great to have you on the program. And I'd love to see the panel with the two of you together. I think we got to get you live and in front of the world. This is a very powerful message. So tell your friends, watch. They can see it online every Tuesday and Thursday, 6 and 10 p.m. We stream live on the internet. We post on Vimeo. This is one of those shows. Last time Arnie was on, we had about 10,000 downloads of the program. So we're really looking forward to getting you guys on and the word out. Stay safe and think green. Let's think alternative energies for a bit.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Arnie. Dave?
Thank you, Tom.
I got a tiny piece of ground and I call it my own. Call it my own. Call it my own. I got a tiny piece of ground and I call it my own. It's a home for a big old redwood tree. You know the loggers may not like it, but